This is a letter from a prisoner that was in Auschwitz.
That's an incredible piece of history.
It belongs in a museum. It's got to go there.
Well, that's not true, and I find it both hypocritical and disingenuous for this creator to use this item to create commercial content for profit, and then in the same breath deride the collector for wanting to sell it on the collectibles market. This attitude demonstrates a basic lack of understanding of how primary source research is done, how history is written, and the symbiotic nature of the relationship between collectors and museums. Concentrations of material increase the risk that large numbers of items are going to be damaged in a single devastating event. Just a few months ago, this museum in Georgia lost 4,000 paintings considered some of the finest in the country to a devastating fire. The looting and destruction of the Mosul Museum by ISIL insurgents in 2015. And just last year, the British Museum lost over 1,500 items that were found listed on eBay due to lax bookkeeping. And that's not even to mention the great burning of the Library of Alexandria that's still considered one of the greatest cultural atrocities in history. And the diaspora of material among collectors is a hedge against all of these horrible occurrences. In addition to that, almost every museum that is not a government institution has also been founded and seeded by a collector at one point in time. This is true of many of the most famous museums in America, including the Whitney and the Guggenheim. Not to mention the fact that when you're doing primary source research and you go to an archive or you go to a museum and look at their collection in order to borrow items in order to conduct your research, what you end up with is a list of collections that have been put together by private collectors and then donated to that museum. I often use the American Heritage Center archive here in Laramie, and when researching this video, the very first thing I saw on their page of their archives was a collection that I know was donated by a collector because it was done by my good friend Jack Rosenthal many years ago, and I'm very familiar with these letters. And the museum would not have had these if Jack had not put them together as a private citizen at private auctions, which is where he gathered all of these materials from. I agree that items like this need to be preserved and are historically important because sunlight is always the best antiseptic for brutality, and learning from the people that came before us is the best thing we can do as humans. I disagree that museums are the only repository in which history can be preserved, and it's been proven over and over and over again that we need to make sure that we have a strong collectors market in order to feed that relationship that exists between collectors and museums and is the establishment of all historical preservation in the country. Denigrating collectors and promoting institutional monopolies does not preserve history, it actually endangers it.